Hello, hello.
I'd like to welcome you all to the session, which is Deaf, Disabled Awareness, Disability Action. And I'd also like to thank the sponsor for this session as well, Deaf Society. So thank you very much for sponsoring this session. I would also like to introduce two presenters, and unfortunately the third presenter was unable to come today. Peter Barker couldn't attend. So I'll introduce these two. This is Cecilia, and then further down is Pia. So I will hand over to you guys. Oh, I just want to remind to everyone, we're not doing a live film here today, but we do have a camera recording the session, but you're not allowed to film it yourself. You can take photos, and that's not a problem, but no filming. Okay? Anything. Oh, you know what, everybody? Thank you so much for coming along, and it's awesome to see you wanting to relate to this topic that we're focusing on. So today we'll be focusing on deaf and disabled. We'd like to start with a karakia. Would anyone like to volunteer to say a karakia to start our session? Any volunteers? Okay. I have one prepared. Dear God, thank you for allowing all of us to gather together to have this amazing discussion. I want you to bless this unit coming together. Amen.
Controlling covering. Cool, awesome. Okay, so I'd just like to say thank you to everyone for coming here today, travelling near and far to get here. I'd like to introduce myself. So my name is Pia Jane, and say some of my name.
And my name is Cecilia, and that's my sign name. And we have...
And my name is Sue Sherrard, and my sign name is Sue. It's like drinking a cup of tea. They always talk about how many cups of tea I have at work, so that's my sign name. And I work at CCS Disability Action alongside my colleagues Cecilia and Pia. So welcome.
One that I forgot to do was to introduce the fact that I actually work alongside Sue at CCS Disability Action. I've been working there for 3 years, and Sue has really empowered us as deaf staff members, and we really value her leadership. So I just wanted to say that.
Oh yes, I forgot to mention, I also work there too. And I've learned so much over the years that I've been working there. It's just incredible. And it's and this is the deaf perspective today. Oh, what's happened? Oh, here we go. Today I'm going to talk about what's going to happen. I'd like you all to have open minds and be active participants within the discussions that will be occurring. And think about maybe feeling what it's like in somebody else's shoes at the same time. So a bit of empathy here as well. If you don't want to share your personal information, please don't. Remember, it's your own experiences that you're sharing, and there's nothing confidential here. We're not going to have arguments or debates. We're going to respect each other throughout our discussions. So thank you.
So for many, many years, we know that sign language has been an official language, and we've got our 25th celebration this year of the interpreting course in sign language teaching. And so sign language has evolved over those number of decades that we've had sign language around here in New Zealand. And so part of sign language is complex. They're interwoven with one another. So we want to pose a question today. We want you to think about the specific signs that we use in relation to deaf disabled people. So if we think about the term Ushers Syndrome, what sign do you use out there in the community? We know that we've seen this sign here. And I don't know if people realise, but those that have Ushers Syndrome in the deaf community actually feel quite offended by that because they feel like it looks like the sign for a horse with blinkers on. And so that can have a real huge impact on those that actually have that syndrome. So I think this is a good opportunity for us to look at the types of signs we are using for those terms, those disorders that people have that are disabled and deaf as well, and see whether they have a positive or negative impact on those who have that syndrome or that disorder. So I'd like to just have us go into an activity.
Okay, it's everyday signs that we're talking about for the deaf and disabled. You know, what signs used for this word, for example. So I'd like us to get into groups. Maybe we'll just divide the class into 3 sections and we can do that activity together. If we can do that. And it's going to work. Oh, you so can read into your...
Thanks everyone for participating in that activity. Having some really good discussion and difference and ideas that you were clarifying together and just sharing your thoughts with each other. So to start the feedback process, I've chosen the word wheelchair. And for most people, the word wheelchair is a real negative kind of word. They say things like confined to a wheelchair, you know, you can't get upstairs, you can't get around. But for me, the word wheelchair is a really positive word. Because without wheelchairs, I'd be stuck at home in bed probably. So my wheelchair is really positive and gives me freedom. So can we put the word wheelchair up on the positive side of that discussion? Like you're just a wheelchair. You're not. Exactly, because it gives me the easiest way to get around. So for me, a wheelchair is really positive. And I'm trying to get that message out to the wider community. So that's an example. So, we'll start with the first group of feedback.
Okay, so we'd like to ask a representative from each of the groups to come forward. If you have the same word as a group previously who has presented, please make sure you choose a different word to present to the group. And can you please explain why your group agreed that it was either positive or negative, if you can. Sue explained her example of the term wheelchair, and that for her, someone who uses a wheelchair, that is a positive thing that she uses, and that term is positive for her. So if we could just get representatives up, that would be great.
But I'll do an example first. Okay, I'm going to use the word blind. Visual impairment. Is it the same or different? Well, see, blind, that sign is definitely a blind sign. Whereas visual impaired person could maybe have assistance with a device to see clearly. So, and some signers, you know, have got thick glasses on, so that's quite negative. But, so that's an example of a negative or a positive use of a sign.
So now if we could just ask one person from each group, like if we start with the group on my left, just choose one of the terms that you discussed and tell us whether you thought it was a positive, it had a positive or negative impact. And tell us why you think that it was a positive impact. It had a positive impact.
Okay, it's a little bit complicated, eh? Not complicated, well, whatever, which one you want to pick?
Okay, so we picked the sign mental health, and we thought that that had a positive connotation to it, and that's because it's providing awareness, it's showing that it encompasses the entire body, it's not only the mind but also the rest of the body as well, so we felt that that was a positive sign.
Other groups agree that mental health was a positive sign. So we're all in agreement that mental health is positive.
Yes. Okay, the group
Quite right.
Oh, I presented more than enough. I'm handing it over. The gentleman from Australia.
So I could maybe pick one of the terms we thought was positive.
Just one term.
Down syndrome. Some people will sign Down syndrome, some people sign DS, so the acronym Down syndrome. Yeah, and those are the two signs that we've got, and we thought that they had a positive connotation. So Down syndrome and Down syndrome, the same stuff. But we also obviously had an example from New Zealand Sign Language and also Autism.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, thank you, Kelly, sorry. So when we looked at Down syndrome, one of the signs that we used, or I'm trying to remember it was actually syndrome, and that it's too much, it's a negative connotation. So it depends on what sign you know, I suppose.
Yeah. With our group, we had a discussion over this and it took quite some time. Sorry, I'll come further forward. So we had this huge discussion. We've got three different signs. The first one was Down syndrome, as in picking. The third one is syndrome, as in three coming down. So they were both positive. But the negative one was Down syndrome. So we had three signs. That was our discussion. So where should we put it? Oh, there's somebody else who wants to say something. So D, you were signing before. Because I called your biggest girl everything, very strong. Language, and we use our product stuff, so we use the sign down and then syndrome. And that's what my family's always signed, and it's been very clear. So thank you for that. When you were talking over here in your further discussion of Paul,
I was talking about someone else.
Down syndrome with the three coming down together. So that could confuse them with their language. So in what register we using? Is that have? Are you signing have? Or are you signing something else? There's that confusion there.
I think it's the way it's articulated from here, and it's articulated quite distinctively if you got it properly.
You have to be very clear with what you're doing if you're coming down. But I think it could confuse. But syndrome like this, Kevin, yes, syndrome like this, is actual sign for syndrome.
You use syndrome.
So that's when you feel this one. Okay.
So the sign Down syndrome, I mean, it looks kind of a bit like the sign for logo as well.
Oh, mental rules or logos. So mental health, what would you like to say, Sue?
Do we know what people with Down syndrome would sign for themselves?
I know a different with Down syndrome. And she has Down syndrome.
That's genetic.
I know. Yeah.
That's definitely genetic DNA.
But yeah, it is.
And also DNA.
Yeah.
That's got two sides. So,
But it's because Down syndrome is a genetic thing. So yeah, that's why she has it.
oh, okay. That makes sense. Once you know the background. So you're talking about a variety of genetics that are involved here, but it makes sense.
So would you initialise and say the D and then do actually the strand of DNA? Would you do something like that? Is that something that would be appropriate? I know I'm just throwing out on the
So D and genetic. No, that's A cell. You can't use that D, you've got to use our D.
I think it's interesting.
So Paul, I'm just thinking it's clear if you've got D for that word and then your first down. You know, there's different syndromes, there's different, you know, how deep is it, how bad is it, surface thing, is it just it's like deep, very deep, severely deep, mildly deep. So these those options. I think that side is very clear. If you've got, you know, the 3 in 1, that can be quite confusing. But those choices, so to speak, I think that's very clear as it's not. So D, so that one, that one, that one, or that one.
Did I say something? You expect me to say something?
Autism and disability, that's something we use in autism. So it's quite different to here. Wheelchair, there's a variety of disabilities. So that's what we use over in Aussie. Oh, thank you guys, thank you so much. So Down syndrome, wow. That's challenged us quite a lot from the science we use. And we need to research it further, I'm sure. Thank you so much for your feedback. So Down syndrome, here is a label as well, but it's about, would you say it yourself if you had Down syndrome? This is my label. Is it a negative label that I'm putting on myself? I know sign language I'm using, I'm cheap, I can use whatever sign language I want. So it's about introducing yourself with the label that you're happy with.
Okay, so can we get the group on the right hand side?
I'm going to pick brain damage. Now, we thought it was positive, so signed like this, brain damage. But if you signed it like this, if your facial expression was slightly different, it's quite negative. You know, your brain's just gone off the world. So that's why we picked brain damage, it's quite neutral. And also the sign of brain dead, that's quite negative. So in general, brain damage, and you say quite neutral with the case. I think it was brain dead or brain damage like that isn't really acceptable. So it really depends on your facial expression, which again is part of our language. So do we all agree with that? So brain, I think I was thinking in the hospital, the doctor said, yeah, they've got brain damage. So yes, it's brain damage. And that's about a car accident, get brain damage from that. So I think it's positive. But who knows, you guys? Also hard work, it's very hard, but that is difficult.
So do we put it on the negative side or the... I'll explain why I put it on the negative side. I just think you know a little bit of personal background, I actually had some brain damage when I was 3 years old. I was in a car accident. And, you know, I couldn't use my left arm for quite a wee while. I still had some numbness there. And I remember a doctor saying to me, you can't do art anymore, and that was a passion of mine. And he basically said to me that, you know, it's not going to work because I'm obviously left-handed with my art and things like that. So a lot of, you know, a lot of adults actually, you know, will say things like that. It was very negative the way that he said it to me. And so I kind of, you know, and then the family started using it too. And so I sort of accepted it because I didn't realise that it actually had those negative connotations. So for me, having that lived experience, I feel like it is negative. So what I've done is actually brain injury, and so I feel that that is a much nicer, more positive sign to use. So yeah, it's quite a challenging thing. You know, I've challenged this term for 25 years, and I think when people say brain damage, that has negative connotations. So yeah, I'm just brain injury.
Yeah, I'm two minds about this myself too. It's an easy word to say, brain injury. And I find brain injury is brain damage as well. So it's an injury. So the injury's where? Maybe they understand that the sign injury, but where is it? So maybe it's the understanding of the word that's being used in the medical term as well. If you're just saying damage is an old word, we need a new word.
Thanks for your perspective, John. You know, for 25 years I have kind of, you know, really dealt with this term. And I know a lot of young people actually use the sign damage. There are so many different signs for this term. I've also seen brain damage like this because it's almost like the brain has disassociated itself from working with another body part. So for example, in my situation, it was my left arm. And so what do you think about that particular way of starting this term, this way? You know, I think perhaps maybe that is something that's good. Maybe there's something that is not working well together, but it doesn't have that sort of real negative slant on it.
So brain damage was something that I was, you know, shown. I've been told that all my life as well. Same thing, you've got damage. And it seems that this nausea inside me whenever I saw that sign. I know that in the future things are going to be fixed up because it's damaged and I can't get repaired. So there's hope for that in the future. So I think brain injury is much more positive compared to the negative of damage.
What happened to you? Let's go with that phrase. What happened to you?
Such a negative.
Yeah, I think it's really negative. What happened to you? Yeah. Asking the phrase, what happened to you? Or, you know, if you hear a person came up to the person and said, what happened to you? How did you come deaf? What happened to you? You know, or it could be someone who is disabled in the wheelchair and things like that, you know, lost a limb. What happened to you? That is a very popular way of saying it. Deaf people are a little bit more blunt when they say things like that, and that's just part of our culture. We're a bit more direct, so how do we kind of change it to make sure that we're saying that phrase but in a more positive way?
So saying it's negative, I actually think it's positive. And the reason is, for example, you're in a wheelchair and maybe you've got a bandage on your leg and it's like, oh, what happened there? What's going on? That's normal. For example, Sue, I'd ask, you know, what happened, Sue? Why have you ended up in a wheelchair? But deaf are very blunt, as you're saying. You know, maybe they've got a bandage and go, oh, what happened? And that's just quite normal. That's not negative at all. It's positive. That's positive. It's deaf way. Very positive.
You're right, we can be quite direct as deaf people. But if you can see the person for a really long time, you go, oh, wow! That's what's going on there. And you used to get self-conscious and think, oh, calm down, but you know, we are pretty blunt. When we say, what happened to you?
And deaf people never asked me why I had crutches. It was just an accepted thing. However, hearing people, oh, you're on crutches, have you broken your leg or something? And they would repeat this question. 6 months later, the same thing. The deaf people never asked me. So that's an interesting perspective.
The last person about this comment.
Sorry, everybody. So with the deaf children, I'm teaching them signs, and the deaf say, hey, what's happened to your finger here? What happened? What happened? So the children are asking me that. So how do you change those words in a child? A furious child asks them. So of course it's a positive thing.
Now, I think I need to sort of put it maybe over there because we're still unsure. And so we'll put that in there, leave it, and then put maybe I'm a bit of a midget, and many times, I've had someone who's rather tall, looking down on me. What happened to you? How come you did not grow to a proper height? And I said, that just, I sort of think, wow, what did happen to me? But I didn't realise, I thought, maybe I don't extend my legs or something like Good comment, thank you. So, it can be quite negative when people say to you, what happened to you? How do you sort of respond to that? And I think it's a generational thing. I think, people say that, and it's part of my gene pool that I'm short, and so there's nothing I can really do about that. And so how do you describe yourself as kind of positive? Because then you can say, well, in a positive way, you can actually feedback and say, the reason why I'm short and midget is because, etc., it's part of my genes. Okay, so can we get someone from the middle group at the back to bring another turn up? Army volunteer.
Wow. So this one here, psycho, we thought it was negative. Because the sign, like that, or like that, or psycho, like crazy. Yeah, so I'm just thinking of that here.
New Zealand sign, do we even use that? Do we have a sign for that? We go crazy. I think we use the sign go crazy.
So crazy.
Crazy. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. You're crazy, my friend. Crazy. Yeah.
Because Brent's watched too many crazy movies.
So we think it has negative connotations. The sign. We feel that it leads to mental health.
Sorry,
So it's kind of related to mental health. And we agreed that that was positive, but I think psycho definitely has negative connotations because it's kind of got put down really. And there's a lot of movies that are like movie titles and movies about psychos and movies influence. Psycho. Oh, you use that sign, psycho. Psycho, yeah. Mental, the sign says something mental. I think it also was related to what someone was saying before about facial expressions and how that can actually either have a negative or positive impact on the sign. So mental health, that's kind of got the sign that ends in psychotherapy. And so there's positive connotations.
quite different. elbow, crazy like this. I'll explain why this time was developed. I'm thinking that it's being observed. Yeah. So the person's reflecting on what their behaviour was like.
Objective.
So they're in the behaviour, so they're seeing what's happening, but they're seeing themselves going through this as well. So it's about their own observations of themselves. This is what's happening to them. It's what's happening around them. And when they're in there, and then seeing what's happening around them. So it's a positive thing from the personal perspective. It's back. It's not negative. It's back. Well, that's where that science comes from, or my thinking of that science.
Can I just clarify? So,
For example, if I've got an issue, myself, no I'm not, but I've removed myself to that area. It's not talking about me, somebody saying, oh you're psycho. It's about the person saying, I've got this. Yeah, it's in general.
yeah, so
It's in general.
So the sign's removed from the body so that it doesn't become a personal attack. Because it's removed and it's a person, it means that we're talking about that person's mental state away from the actually attacking them personally. Okay, so we finished labelling, actually putting negative or positive columns, or the columns, and we decided as a group we feel that these terms fit. And myself, I have a lot of experience of having mental illness, and lots of people sign the sign on crazy. A lot of the signs that they use are really derogatory signs, and I've had a lot of hurt from that, but the way that things have been signed at me. And so I think we have to be really conscious of how we actually sign things in sign language when we're talking about people who are deaf and are disabled as well. And if we can change these to actually be positive, that has a big impact. It's like birth disability, birth defect. Sometimes people sign it like handicap, like this, and I know that there's a lot of young deaf youth who sign that sign, and I just think, wow, this is 2017, we're in the 21st century. We really need to make sure that we're actually signing things in a positive way for disabled people. Could we not do the sign for birth defect as in being born and having a disability, those two signs? Because some of the community out there who actually have these syndromes and are disabled as well, being deaf, don't label themselves the way that we label them when we're using our signs the way that we use them. So it's a pretty big thing to be thinking about. We're 25 years now and celebrating, so I think it's important that we don't stick with the negative, because otherwise that has huge impact on a person's self-esteem, how they see themselves. And so I think we probably need to change that, specifically thinking about autism, the way that we sign it. Autism. So it kind of refers to the person being very insular, they're all about themselves, they're narcissistic. That they don't think about anybody else around them, that they're only, and deaf people don't do that. Culturally we look outwards to communicate. So I don't think that's a very good sign to use. Can I do that too?
I'm working in Australia, I'm a teacher aide supporting doing learning and assessments in a specialist school for children with disabilities. And autism, we don't sign that there, we sign it like this.
Oh,
So we've got the person and the eyes coming, so they don't want to see the person, they're not making eye contact. So you're seeing autism or autism. So that's what we use. They're not looking at the person.
Can I say something in response to that? No, finish first.
So that's the sign we use there. There was a workshop called Autism Spectrum disorder, and that's the sign we use. So the disorder was dropped, so autism spectrum, and that's a AS. The disorder's been dropped. So it's on autism spectrum. So in the future, maybe the disorder will be dropped here in New Zealand as well.
In my group, we had a discussion, and we were talking about the same thing. There were two signs, and the first sign was the sign that Lorraine alluded to. And someone who was an Australian himself said that they weren't comfortable with that particular sign because that is not exactly what all people on the autism spectrum actually do. Some people can actually engage quite well with eye contact, and so and the same thing with the sign that we use in New Zealand. There is a variety of things that a person with autism will have and do behaviours that don't necessarily mean that they will actually disengage by looking into space rather than looking at someone. So I think it's very limited in what we're saying. Just focusing on one thing.
Let's have one more person coming forward.
So sorry, I arrived late. I've just come in on a conversation, and we were talking about sign for autism. And I remember on Facebook there was a blog, and there was a particular deaf mother who had I think 2 or 3 deaf children, and I think one or both of them actually are on the autism spectrum. And she was saying that sign that we use in New Zealand Sign Language can actually have negative connotation. And so someone, I can't remember the exact person that was signing, but the sign came out from someone. It was something, I don't know if I've got this right exactly, but they signed it like this autism because they internalise a lot more than the wider public do. And so that's possibly a new sign that's being getting around in the community at the moment. So I think that we need more discussion about that. I'm not sure exactly what the Australian sign. But I think we should ask people who are autistic themselves and deaf what they prefer to use as a sign. So I don't know, that's just something to throw it out there, that sign that I've seen on the blog somewhere.
Okay, I think, that was the last one. It was going to be the last one. Okay. The last one.
I've just got a little bit more to say. I think that word is a very broad term. Like we say, we've got people on a spectrum, and you could say autism, which is really distinctively someone who has all the features of autism, or you could say someone about someone who has Asperger's. It's a very broad term that is used to label people with. I can't remember how to spell Asperger's, but Asperger's syndrome, they engage with people a lot more, they're very intelligent, so I think it's very, very broad, and I think we probably have to, you can't just use one particular sign to actually cover that whole spectrum of,
Wow, that's a great discussion we've had. And down here we've got learning, there's been lots of discussion over this learning disability There's been given, it's huge impact on the person that's seeing those signs for learning disability. And you don't realise what these actual terms mean. So I'm just going to explain the English and what the positive and the negative. So low education or low understanding is quite negative. So for it to be positive, so they have a learning disability or a learning disability. But just following the English words. but we don't have those signs here in New Zealand. We have lots of other signs that are used for disabilities. Maybe next year there'll be a new committee set up to create signs for this field, which would be great, in a positive way. And if we can just move on to the next slide. I know you've seen these signs today, so they're just sitting in the back of your head, and it's a bit like, you see something, you can't be ignorant of it anymore. It's a label that's been used, and all that's on.
So we're just going to touch on what is a disabled culture. We have a strong disabled culture, we have a strong deaf culture, but we don't have a strong deaf disabled culture. Where is their identity? I think sometimes these people can be excluded from our community, and we need to be included in our community. And I think sometimes it's a systemic problem. I think sometimes, we just go along with life and we follow the system, and the system excludes these people, and we just accept that, but I don't think we should. So deaf disabled people don't seem to be connected. They don't seem to, like I said before, have a deaf disabled culture, identity. They have lots of gaps. They're still emerging at the moment. There's no research about them. Well, we're in our 25th year celebration here, and we still don't seem to have enough research. We don't seem to see this group being empowered much. We don't talk about deaf disabled people enough in our community. They're still trying to catch up. They haven't got there like we have with our strong deaf culture that we have. They do have a distinctive deaf disabled culture, but it's not recognised. And I think, over the decades, that's been a pretty major thing for them. And so I want to ask you a really hard question. Do you involve those in our community who are deaf, but also...
Just at the top point there, there's really been no discussion about deaf disabled people. They haven't been identified throughout our culture. How can we encourage them to be independent? Interpreters, they need to code switch and adapt to make sure that the deaf disabled person does have a voice. We need to work out and to match them appropriately. And in New Zealand, there are no deaf disabled leaders. We've got lots of deaf leaders, but not just deaf disabled. Disabled group have got disabled leaders, but again, there's no deaf disabled leaders. Deaf disabled people seem quite isolated. They're shunned from their wider community. They're not included. They need to be included more and more. Even from our deaf culture, they seem to be disempowered and not included.
It's fabulous information, really good information. When you talk about interpreters adapting their practice to support and empower disabled people, what role should the interpreters take on? Is it the interpreter's role to do support, or is it should they bring a support person alongside them as well?
I promise we're going to talk about that soon. Let's get that to the next slide.
Oh, this is really hitting me in the heart. Oh, this is really hitting me in the heart. You plugged me on, and my heart is 100 beats per millisecond. That's right. You've actually started the process for us and included disabled people. You've got a disabled leader alongside you here today, ladies, and you yourselves have lived experiences, and so congratulations. You are starting this process.
Disabled have self-isolated, and it's definite, and it's been like that for over 25 years. For example, myself, I've been isolated. People haven't seen me. But I love deaf culture, I love the facial expressions, I love the language, but I couldn't do that to start with. I was a bit stuck. It's like, what's wrong with you? You're not signing properly. Come on, girl, get with it. And I would go home and cry. And I would just pull myself back from the community. And I really wanted that relationship. I wanted them to accept me and be involved. But I didn't know how to do the facial expression. So it was a bit of a clash for me with the deaf culture and the deaf disabled culture. So, we've got lots of facial expressions that are used throughout the language, and I would just do this with whole as opposed to what you saw before. So I couldn't get the depth of the language. So that made me quite isolated.
We have about 5 minutes, I think. It's 5 minutes for the session. So, about 5 minutes to have a very quick discussion, if you can, about examples that you can think of the barriers that deaf disabled people face. Okay. So specifically thinking about deaf disabled people and barriers that